This is my 2004 Dodge Stratus, and I've been having a problem with motor mounts. This thing just likes to break motor mounts left and right. So today, I'm going to change this front one. Now, I bought a kit where you're supposed to cut out the insides and I guess the steel ring even. Like there's a outer steel part and an inner steel part that the rubber is actually attached to. I need to remove all of that out of the actual like casing so that I can put that back with the mount being solid polyurethane basically. And the polyurethane will not be attached to the metal. That's actually part of the beauty of it, because the rubber that is attached to the metal actually likes to tear all the time, I guess, like from this kind of action. So eventually I'm going to change all of these and then you know, let you know how I think it feels. So here's the insert upgrade polyurethane kit. Now if you look closely, this says front, so this is the one that I'm going to be putting in the front there. And this one here says rear. And it looks like in here you have ones for the transmission side and the other side, but they go on like this, and they end up filling out like what a mount would by putting these two on each side, which actually makes it easy because these have to be pressed in. And then of course, once everything is all inside, you then have to slip these metal things through any of these in order to get the bolt a nice secure spot to, you know, hold everything together. Now the thing I do like about this kit too, now this kit wasn't bought for my car, it was actually bought for an Eclipse, but it came with these, which when I take this bottom cross member down here the rest of the way out, you're gonna see how it has these two little front bushings that are shot. So I'm glad this kit came with that. One thing you're going to have to take note of is that these things are all different lengths. So you're going to have to use the right, you know, length one to fit through. However thick this becomes, whatever this is, etc. So just be mindful of that. Now when you come under the front of the car, you'll see this cross member here. Now there's two bolts in the front. I've already removed them. They just come out with a 17. They look like this with these large washers. And then in the back there are two with 15 millimeter heads, one in front of the other. Now they're also easy to get out, and once you take both of those out, this whole thing will drop with the front motor mount attached to it. Now you're going to want to take out the motor mount bolt that goes through the mount actually, so that this will drop down. So here's that nut and bolt out of the motor mount. Now I said 15 millimeter, but these are all actually 14 millimeter. I also took out the one from the front because it was accessible, but you could do that when it's out. Now if you have ramps, that'll make the job much easier, or you can just jack it up and make sure that you're securely jacked, jack stands, whatever. So this last 14 millimeter bolt is only finger tight. I've already cracked them all loose and taken them out. There we go. So as you can see, it just dropped down on my arm. I gotta finagle myself out from underneath it, but there's the motor mount with it. So let me just get out from underneath here. So here's the cross member out on the ground. As you can see, the motor mount's literally totally shot. It looked like the motor was floating on this when it would run. So yeah, I mean, that's all but hanging on by a thread. So here to get the last bolt off. That was easy. Yeah, look at this thing. Well, I guess that'll make it easier to hollow out. And these are those front two little bushings I was talking about that we replaced with these that are polyurethane, which I'm so glad that this kit came with that. So, let's see how these come out. Oh, oh, okay. They're almost like these bushings with the center thing. They just go on each side, and you just reuse this metal. Sweet, that's easy. So I'm going to strip everything off of this, and I'm going to clean this cross member up really well before I get to work on it. And for anyone out there that wants to try that polyurethane in a tube windshield adhesive kit, it doesn't seem to matter how you prep this thing. It eventually seems to just bust it out anyway. I've tried it a few different times on a few different mounts on a few different cars, and I've never actually had it permanently work out. Something like this has always happened, but as you can see, this thing's destroyed too, so. I removed the center of the mount basically just by pushing with my thumb on one side, and the one side broke, and then the other side was giving me a little bit of a fight, like I couldn't pull it out, but it was wrapped around the side of the mount kinda, so I just held it there, and I gave it a couple little slices with a razor blade, and it pretty much just came right out in seconds. So once one's destroyed like this, it really shouldn't be a problem to get it to this point. Now, the next thing you're going to have to do is we have to remove this metal ring from this outside metal ring. So I guess I'm going to take a Sawzall and I'm going to cut this way in here and just get to the point of almost going through, and then I'm going to stop. And I'm going to do that probably twice. That should make everything almost fall out. If you do it 2 or 3 times like that, you'll notice the things start to loosen up inside and potentially might even just fall out. Well, this only took a few seconds to get pretty far through in 3 spots here. Now I'm using a DeWalt Sawzall with a Milwaukee blade, so I don't know if that's a little faster than other brand stuff, but I think I'm ready to start trying to hammer this out with a little chisel or punch. Now you can see I nicked the edge of this right here, but it's only right there. It's not all the way through. I just barely nicked the edges. Maybe once or twice there. This will be fine. Something else that might help it separate would be adding a tiny bit of penetrant or something between these metal things. Nice. After I made those 3 cuts, I realized that it's probably actually easier to make 2 cuts right next to each other and then bust apart that area and then let everything sort of just collapse and fall right through. It actually seemed like it was starting to come through a little bit just with the Sawzall motion, because it looks like it's recessed a little here and it's sticking out on this side, so I guess it's already loose. So I decided to flip it over and tap the protruding side in a little bit to help it collapse in on itself. It's getting there. I used the Sawzall a tiny bit more now that I'm not touching the edge so much. As you can see, I only nicked the very edge there. I'm not sure how well it shows up on camera, but in real life you could see the whole thing's pretty much all solid steel still. So let me just get this removed here the rest of the way. Oh, you can see light through there. I think she's coming out now. Too bad I can't do this on camera. Okay, it's finally out. So this is what you're looking to remove out of this. So once you have this like this, and no, that's not a cut mark there. That's actually where they seamed it together when they welded. You have to get this to press all the way through there, so you can see how this is going to be a permanent fix. It will not be attached to the metal. It won't be able to tear or anything. The bolt with the piece of metal that goes in here is going to be solid and it's not going to go anywhere, so this is a permanent fix. Now notice when you go to press this in, this side over here is flat. This side over here has a little angled lip. That's the side you're going to want to press in so that this thing actually pops through. You'll never pretty much get it through. I know it doesn't look like much of a lip, but trust me, you have to go from this side. So I gave this cross member a little bit of paint, and I'm knocking the burrs all off and out of this. Make sure it's nice and smooth before you go pressing this bushing in. So now I'm not sure how I'm going to get this to go in. I do have a press kit, but I mean, all the attachments I believe are small. Actually, I guess I should get it out. Luckily, I have a vise in my garage on this bench here, so I'm going to see if this thing is actually just going to press in just by tightening the vise. I'm not sure if I can do this on camera or if I'm going to have a hand on the actual bushing. Let's see. I'm slowly cranking it in. I don't see... Oh wait, it looks like the bottom might be going in a little bit first. But anyway, I guess I'll do this off camera and let you know how it works out. So it's looking like the trick to doing it this way is actually to raise this up so that this is kind of in the center, and if it starts pushing in on one side more than the other, slowly back it off, hoping that it sort of stays in where it is, and then just move it around to where you can get the side that's not going in to actually start going in. And then once it starts going in, you might even be able to push it the rest of the way with your hands. It's this lip. Once you get this lip sliding inside this hole, then you're actually usually pretty good. There we go, the lip's all the way in. That actually wasn't too hard. I was actually able to hold the part that actually went in with my hand very easily, loosen the vise up a bit, and then lift this out and turn it around and then push on it a little bit. Now I did lube this up too. I used some like waxy type anti-corrosive, anti-rust, I forget what it's called, fluid film? Yeah, I used some fluid film to lubricate this, because that stuff will stay in there and prevent rust pretty much permanently. And it's not going to mess up anything either. So let me get this the rest of the way in. In fact, maybe I could get this in on... Well, I'm going to have to actually back it up and let it fall down a little bit and then press it in. There we go. Managed it with one hand. And as you can see, it's going right in. So I'll probably have to pull it out to let the lip pop through the other side, but there you go. It's basically in. Okay, so this is all the way in. Now literally, to get it to go the rest of the way in, I literally just held it in one hand like this, and I held a hammer in my other hand and just gave it a few taps in the air, and it just popped right through. And then of course I cleaned up all the excess fluid film to make it look nice and neat. Something else I just noticed. This kit actually came with one extra one of these things, and it actually is thinner in here, and I guess it's actually for the front one, because it looks like it's the same size as this. So I hope the other ones don't need anything thinner like this, or I guess I'll have to come up with my own solution. I mean, I guess I could pull the rubber off of this and see if this slides into these holes, but I guess we'll figure that out when I get to it. So to confirm, I tried putting the bolt, like this is the nut and bolt here that would go for the mount. So that actually fits, being the thicker one here. And I also then tried putting this guy down in here, because this is where it's going to have to be between, obviously. Don't know if you can see both sides, but you see what I mean. This has to fit in here, and it does. So I'm actually going to use this thicker one, even though the other one was actually one of those thinner looking guys. So now to put these bushings in. I just learned the hard way not to put it in this way to go all the way through. You should put it in the front way and then just press it down on the ground a little bit here. Well, I did it like this to get it about flush. And then I'm going to have to try to finagle this in. I guess I can use a big pair of pliers at this point. So I was able to get it started by hand, and then once it was barely together, I was then able to take this and clamp it. I had to move all the way around though, like this, squeezing over and over and over again, but it went right together. So now to do the other side. Of course, after undoing that, don't do that. So with everything installed onto the cross member, don't forget to torque these bolts down too. And I added a little bit of paint. This cross member is ready to go back onto the car. So I was trying to figure out what the easiest way to hang this would be real quick, and it seems like just putting it up here and putting that bolt through and just still letting it hang, like it's just there. It's just only holding by that bolt that goes through the motor mount right now. So I'm going to loosely put in everything else, see how she looks, and then start torquing all the bolts. So I'm hoping this is the fix where I won't have to keep replacing these because they tear up in the center, as you saw in the beginning. So there we have it. Everything's installed. There's the crossmember bushings. All the bolts are all torqued. And yes, that's some cardboard that stuck to the paint after letting it dry for like 2 hours out in this heat. I know, it's ridiculous. But anyway, I'm sure the cardboard will come off. But, yeah, there it is. So my advice to anyone who has this 3-liter Mitsubishi motor, get this kit. and it will solve all of your motor mount tearing problems, your transmission shifting around in shifts problems. Of course, it won't solve transmission problems, but my transmission feels great now. I mean, just putting the one in so far, the car feels great. So I'm hoping that when I put the rest of them in, it's going to feel even better. Plus, you won't have to replace them every 5,000 miles. So see you next time.